Charities was a multi-agency task force to prosecute the biggest money launderers of the Medellin cartel. Most of the people I dealt with were high-level drug traffickers.
That's because this glitzy megacity in the Persian Gulf has become home to nearly all of our biggest organised crime bosses. They think by moving offshore.
Layering is a process by which a series of corporations, usually offshore entities, are used to continue to receive.
Instead, cash was stuffed into warehouses, hidden behind walls, buried in fields, or locked in underground vaults.
If it wasn't for that. And they said, well, we'll give you a meeting if you can give us a resume. I had a fully verifiable resume, and I had bank accounts with millions of dollars in it.
The most vulnerable part of any criminal enterprise is never the design of the loop, but the reliability of the people running it. Penetrating high-level money laundering networks requires undercover operations designed to mimic the most complex corporate shells. Former operatives often had to build multi-million dollar front companies just to gain the trust of cartel kingpins.
Charities was a multi-agency task force to prosecute the biggest money launderers of the Medellin cartel. Most of the people I dealt with were high-level drug traffickers who had hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm doing this interview in silhouette because two agencies and an intelligence agency informed me that the Medellin cartel issued a contract on my life. I spent a year and a half putting together what I think is one of the more sophisticated fronts.
Building a believable front takes months of meticulous accounting design. If a single tax document or balance sheet looks off, the cover is blown instantly. Smugglers use ingenious methods to physically transport contraband across borders, often embedding illicit materials into ordinary household items. These physical logistics are a starting point for cash generation that eventually must be laundered.
Those latex sheets into the ground sheets of tents. So we would employ passengers basically to go and collect the tent after it had been impregnated with the cocaine, to then bring that back through customs. I kind of set some ground rules when it came to recruiting passengers. I would try and find people that had obviously no criminal record or...
Once the physical product is, the digital underworld operates much like a massive corporate conglomerate, generating millions out of sight of traditional financial audits. To understand where the money goes, one must look below the surface of the standard banking system.
This moniker to protect my own confidentiality and my own safety. I was the executive business director of an extremely large illegal enterprise that made well over 8 digits on the dark web. I'm here today with BuzzFeed to help dispel some myths about the dark web. What are the difference between the clear net, the dark net, and the deep web? If you want to think about it like an iceberg, you have what's showing above the waterline, right? So you have just a little bit of the iceberg, you have the waterline, and that waterline is where stuff starts to get murky. Then you're getting into the...
Just like the deep web, the vast majority of laundered wealth is hidden in complex multi-large structures that are invisible to standard regulatory scans. Highly structured syndicates have industrialized human migration routes, turning human desperation into a highly organized and profitable financial pipeline.
The first stop in Mexico for thousands of migrants. But the path north to the U.S. is now controlled by a violent criminal underworld. There's a new beast in town. That's why I've come back. To try to get inside the most profitable...
Controlling high cash flow pipelines allows these criminal organizations to accumulate vast sums that must be quickly integrated into the legitimate banking system. Traditional theft relies on observing simple patterns of neglect, exploiting small vulnerabilities to seize physical assets without detection.
Most burglaries don't happen at night. They happen in broad daylight, while you're at work, while the kids are at school, and while the house looks empty. And for years, Mario Ponce was the guy walking through that door. Mario, you started breaking into homes as a teenager. What made someone's house an easy target?
Well, it's easier than people think. You see that house over there? Piled up newspaper, mailbox overflown, no car in the driveway for a couple of days. It's an open invitation.
Whether it is a physical home or a corporate shell company, criminals are always searching for unmonitored spaces to exploit. High-level financial operators seek jurisdictions with lenient reporting standards to shield their assets from international law. Enforcement. Buying premium real estate under corporate aliases is a classic strategy to park dirty capital.
That's because this glitzy megacity in the Persian Gulf has become home to nearly all of our biggest organised crime bosses. They think by moving offshore they're out of reach of federal authorities. But tonight they might be thinking again. An enormous leak of Dubai property records has revealed not only their home addresses, but also how the city has become a prized destination for crooks and suspected criminals from all around the world.
For a long time, real estate and unregulated hubs acted as a bulletproof vault. But massive data leaks are starting to dismantle these offshore sanctuaries. Historically, the most powerful criminal syndicates used unlimited cash reserves to corrupt local institutions and establish shadow government.
Point forward, Escobar ruled by a simple creed, plata o plomo, meaning silver or lead.
Plata o plomo. Ustedes eligen.
Take the bribe or face the bullet. Bribery bought him more than freedom. It bought him influence.
While brute force creates compliance, it is the sophisticated flow of bribes through hidden accounts that secures long-term institutional influence. The birth of organized digital forums allowed decentralized fraudsters to pool resources, sharing tools to compromise identities and siphon millions from financial institutions.
My name is Brett Johnson, former United States most wanted cybercriminal. Through fraud, identity theft, and scams, I was able to steal millions of dollars. And this is how crime works. I built and ran the first organized cybercrime community. It's called Shadow Crew. I regret every single instance of that, of the people that I knew that I victimized, that trusted me, that put faith in me every single day.
These early fraud networks prove that crime scales rapidly when individual operators can buy, sell, and trade stolen assets in a trusted digital marketplace. Precious metals provide a highly effective laundering vehicle because physical gold can be melted down, race-stamped, and sold with minimal trace of its origin.
The rival gangs that control Africa's gold.
As long as you grease the wheels in Africa, there's no issue. Smuggler. That's what it is, smuggler.
All the paper trail is legitimate. It's not like somebody can question it.
Former members of the gold mafia speak exclusively to the I-Unit.
The gold mafia is bigger than the government, bigger than any of the authorities.
When a laundering network controls the gold supply chain, they essentially operate their own central bank, completely independent of government oversight. Street-level chemical production houses operate in volatile, makeshift setups, processing hazardous materials to meet constant local demand.
Is an incredibly strong ammonia smell that will literally feel like it can burn the hairs inside of your nose, right? So you could tell the moment you walked into a room where somebody was making meth. Sometimes you would cough right away if you didn't have a mask on you, or, it would make your eyes water. Even the smaller labs really took care to put these small kind of hoods or fans right above their main reactions in order to port out the gases.
High manufacturing margins keep these operations profitable, but the rapid accumulation of cash eventually forces them to seek professional financial help. Layering is the most critical stage in the laundering cycle, designed to distance illicit funds from their source by routing them through a maze of shell companies.
Layering is a process by which a series of corporations, usually offshore entities, are used to continue to receive what initially started off maybe as a suitcase full of cash. The way we layered, the money would first be put into a certificate of deposit in Luxembourg in the name of an offshore entity.
By placing corporate entities in jurisdictions with strict bank secrecy, investigators are faced with a nearly impossible paper trail to untangle. To move industrial volumes of contraband, criminal enterprises exploit global shipping corridors by compromising key personnel at maritime entry points.
The cartels use containers, shipping containers, to bring in the larger shipments of cocaine, i.e. tons at a time. This is normally done using corrupt port officials at both ends who facilitate the movement of the cocaine. I didn't like the idea personally because I'd realized, well, having seen other people do it.
Relying on corrupt gatekeepers is highly efficient for transport, but it creates centralized vulnerabilities that a single dedicated investigator can expose. Accessing encrypted networks is entirely legal for researchers and security professionals who study cyber threats in real time.
It's illegal to go on the dark web. That is a very common myth. It is not illegal to go on both the dark or the deep web. You can sign up and you can freely browse any large darknet marketplace. Researchers, law enforcement, and normal citizens do it all the time without any legal repercussions. Where the legal trouble starts is when you start buying things, shipping things, and distributing content. That is where you will get into trouble. Is the dark web bigger than the clear net? Yes.
The threshold out. Criminality is crossed the moment a user completes a transaction or facilitates the distribution of illegal goods on these networks. At the absolute start of the drug trade, cheap raw materials are chemically processed in remote rural labs before being prepared for export.
Producing cocaine, surprisingly, isn't complicated. Coca leaves are picked by hand, then mulched together, then mixed with cement, gasoline, and other chemicals to produce a raw coca paste. In the past, most of this product was sent north, to the US. But more and more paste is now heading south, to the burgeoning Brazilian market I just came from.
This high yield extraction process requires minimal technology, generating massive profit margins long before the product ever reaches Western markets. Highly effective cyber criminals do not always rely on complex software exploits. They use basic psychological tricks to bypass physical security perimeters.
A receptionist or an assistant to a CEO. These are my normal looking hearing aids. They're actually my real hearing aids. I'll be in a suit looking all professional and I'll go like, can I charge the hearing aids on your computer?
A polished suit and a polite request can easily compromise a multi-million-dollar corporate network in under a minute. Strategic logistical centers bridge the gap between global producers and lucrative consumer markets, offering excellent financial infrastructure for transcoding.
As a hub.
If you're in the international drug business, Dubai is a great place to do business from. First off, its geographic location is great. Hop, skip and a jump into Europe, not far to Southeast Asia, so it's about midway. Secondly, if you want to be moving in the circles with international drug suppliers, it's a place to go because a lot of the European people are already there.
Setting up shop in a world-class financial hub allows elite criminal coordinators to mix with legitimate corporate leaders completely undetected. When an illicit network generates cash faster than it can be routed through banks, storing physical paper money becomes a significant operational risk.
Instead, cash was stuffed into warehouses, hidden behind walls, buried in fields, or locked in underground vaults. His brother Roberto, the cartel's accountant, later admitted that nearly 10% of all stored cash, more than $2 billion each year, was lost to rats, mold, and water damage.
Physical. Cash is highly vulnerable to environmental decay, losing billions to mold and pests is simply accepted as a cost of doing business. Before modern encrypted forums, cybercriminals relied on unmonitored chat systems to coordinate activities where trust was non-existent, and scams were highly frequent.
The seller. Now, before these criminal communities, the only avenue you had to network with other criminals was IRC, Internet Relay Chat. It was a rolling chat board. You had no idea who you were talking to, if you could trust them, if they had a product or service, if it worked, if they had it, or if they were just going to rip you off because everyone there was a crook.
The development of structured escrow systems and review ratings on darknet markets completely revolutionized how cybercrime is monetized. Elite golden commodity networks use regulatory loopholes in tax-free trade zones to convert massive shipments of precious metals into clean, audited banking deposits.
It's a headquarters. Dubai is the center for Africa. a banking center, financial center. It's tax-free. You don't need to have all the paper, too much.
Easier to do things.
It's much easier. We have our own license clearing at Dubai Abroad. We have permission of the Central Bank of Dubai. We have permission of Reserve Bank. We have the money laundering clearance certificates.
Possessing official regulatory clearance certificates allows complex trading schemes to bypass international sanctions with minimal friction. Underground distributors secure their localized networks by using strict cash incentives and creating strong structural dependencies among their lower-level personnel.
They would be left with about $15,000 from me. There was a hierarchy. He always got paid in money and it was always cash. Once he got paid, you could tell that there were a couple of other people who actually got money, and the rest of people literally relied on free meth supplies to do.
Ensuring that the lowest tiers of an organization remain dependent on the supply line is a standard method of maintaining control. To gain access to high-end laundering channels, operators must present a clean, verifiable business portfolio that allows compliant banking staff to justify their onboarding.
There, if it wasn't for that. And they said, well, we'll give you a meeting if you can give us a resume. I had a fully verifiable resume, and I had bank accounts with millions of dollars in it, all of which the bank in particular wanted to see before they opened up to me and explained to me how they laundered money for many people in organized crime.
Some mainstream financial institutions actively look for wealthy, questionable clients because the fees generated for managing hidden assets are incredibly high. Smuggling rings maintain extreme confidentiality to protect their main coordinators, knowing that any arrested courier could be pressured into testifying.
Somebody's going to turn informant or betray you. The group that we had, there was me, a Colombian and a Chilean, who were the key players. And then we would employ passengers to bring the tents back in. Well, after the Colombian and the Chilean were arrested in a laboratory that was raided in Crystal Palace, the Colombian was turned by the British police and became an informant. We then started to receive.
The most vulnerable part of any criminal enterprise is never the design of the loop, but the reliability of the people running it. Privacy-focused networks were originally designed to protect sensitive communications for journalists and dissidents, not just to host underground black markets.
To overcome it. The dark web started and still largely operates as a safe space for people to convey ideas, messages without fear of repercussions. And the one big thing that I want to hit home, and I hope everyone can take home from watching this video, is the darknet does not look like it has dark mode enabled. It is not a scary black background with lines of code going around.
Technology itself is completely neutral, the exact same encryption. Tools that protect political whistleblowers also shield illicit marketplace transactions, exposing systemic political corruption or cartel. Operations puts insiders in extreme danger, requiring constant security shifts and covert meeting protocols.
So this guy we're meeting is very nervous. He was supposed to meet him at a train station. He's moved locations on us a few times already, and it's understandable why he's nervous. He's essentially a whistleblower who's going to be talking to us about corruption within the government.
Miguel, perdón si te quiero.
Whistleblowers face immense pressure because they know that revealing institutional loopholes can disrupt highly profitable, protected criminal enterprises. Micro-level financial skimming operations exploit high-traffic payment terminals using simple distractions to install physical collection hardware in plain sight.
Normally target low-income gas stations whose clerks aren't really aware of what's going on.
What time of day do you normally do this?
In the daytime, around 5 or 6, that's when most people get off work. That's when the clerks are more busy.
How do you get it on without the clerk noticing?
All right, so I usually have my friend just come in here and distract the clerk. So I'll tell them, go in there and go get a pack of batteries or something. Take it to the batteries, and then it will just clip right on, and then I'll just walk right out.
These physical exploits prove that even the most secure modern banking system is vulnerable to basic, street-level social engineering. Real estate markets provide the ultimate laundering vehicle because they allow high-net-worth individuals to inject Millions of dollars of cash into concrete, appreciating assets.
Funds.
If you're going to engage in a great deal of money laundering for criminal activity or otherwise, you're going to need a robust real estate market. It really comes in handy for being able to launder millions and sometimes even billions of dollars in cash. You just can't do that in other situations. Maybe you can do that with artwork, maybe to an extent with gold, but there's not very many other ways to do it.
Art and gold have their place, but real estate is the only vehicle that simultaneously washes vast sums while providing a tangible, high-end lifestyle asset. Historic waterfront estates owned by prominent smugglers were often customized to act as secure holding facilities, containing concealed chambers and heavy safes built into the foundation.
A road in Miami Beach. The 4-bedroom waterfront property, with direct access to Biscayne Bay, became notorious among locals who suspected it was used as both a cartel hideout and a storage site. By the mid-1980s, U.S. authorities seized the mansion, convinced it concealed safes inside its walls and foundation.
Even after properties are elite cyber networks established there, technical infrastructure in jurisdictions with highly restrictive legal cooperation policies to avoid international search warrants.
Had several identities on Shadow Crew.
Back then, how do you avoid detection? What's your operational security? You would try to have the server located in a country where it was difficult for law enforcement to subpoena anything from it.
Selecting the correct geographical location for hosting data is just as critical as routing funds through the right tax haven. Circular trade finance schemes allow launderers to generate legitimate import-export invoices, effectively validating dirty cash as official export revenues.
The proceeds of the gold export will, in effect, be counted twice. Declared as clean in Zimbabwe and in Dubai.
I bring back the cash. That's how I buy the gold again.
And the money laundering cycle starts all over again.
This double counting loop provides a continuous supply of clean bank transfers that easily satisfy standard compliance audits. The multi-billion-dollar narcotics trade starts with manual labor in agricultural fields where raw plant derivatives are processed for pennies before entering international commerce.
Farmers, when it's mature, scrape the sides of it, and overnight, little beads of white sap are produced. That's scraped off to form a kind of sticky brick. Now that is the opium base. That contains a very, very high yield of morphine, 15, 20%.
The vast disparity between the law, farmgate price and the final retail value is exactly what generates the massive cash reserves that need laundering. As long as premium developers are willing to accept complex shell structures, real estate will remain the ultimate vehicle for hiding wealth.